Jason Clemmons, Doctor of Chiropractic at the Rock Health and Wellness Center, and you are listening to Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. This is Monday, October 23rd, and we are coming to you live from the Rock Health and Wellness Center studios in 98.7 FM Walk by Faith Radio, and we are glad that you are here tonight. It's another Monday. It's my favorite day of the week. Get to get back with you, get to share some health and wellness news with you, get to talk about some things that I think are awesome. It's been a really good weekend just to learn. It's been a lot of learning going on for me this weekend. So I'm hoping that we can share some of that information with you and encourage you to get through your day, and maybe you can have a better week. So that's what it's all about this week. And we're really excited to be here. I'm always excited to be here. I know we got big baseball games going on tonight and football games going on tonight. And for all you people who aren't sports fans, I'm sure there's something else going on tonight. So, but we're going on tonight. That's one thing that's for sure, is that's what we're doing. We're right here and we're coming to you, and we're hoping to bring you information that makes your life better. So I hope that the things that you're getting, and I really appreciate it. I appreciate the feedback that you've given us, and I appreciate the messages that you've sent us, and I really hope that that continues, and I'm going to try to get all those answered for you, for the ones that have sent in messages or personal messages to me, and try to get all that answered and get all of your questions answered. So if you have a question, if you have anything that you'd like to talk about with me, and you're welcome to send us a text. If you're listening to us on the radio, you can send us a text at 806-794-0400. That's our office phone. You can call and make an appointment if you would like to on that same phone number, or you can call us on that phone, or you can send us a text on that phone. And if you're listening to us online and you'd like to send us a message tonight online, then feel free to do that, because I'll try to get all those questions answered tonight. If you've got something that's been on your mind, if you have a question, sometimes the people that are listening to the show, they'll listen to the show and then they'll come in to the office and they'll be like, man, I really was wanting to ask you something. And so I'm like, awesome, go ahead. But, you don't have to wait till you come into the office to do that. You can also just send me a text, and you can send us a text, and I'll try to answer everything I can for you and try to get you the information that you need so that you can live the most awesome life possible. Don't forget about our contest that we got going on. And if you guys are listening to this on the radio, go back and check us out on the Rock Health and Wellness Facebook page. And you can, we're having a contest to see how many Red Hots fit in a 20-ounce soda bottle, right? So we got one more week before this contest test is over. Next Tuesday will be the last day. And we've got some good guesses, and they're really close, right? And so it's just, the concept behind this is that if you don't understand what's going on with the drawing, the idea is, people say, well, Doc, I just have one soda a day. How bad can that be for me? And every time they say that, I think to myself, I wonder how many blood pressure pills you could put in one soda bottle. Or I wonder how many birth control pills you could put in one soda bottle. Or how many diabetes pills, or how many blood thinners, whatever your thing is, right? If you think about how small those pills are that we take, those little tiny pills have the capacity to change our physiology, right? And so we're just taking, it's like, all right, well, these Red Hots represent a pill. You can see there's a bunch of them in there. You can take a guess at it. And the winner gets a $50 gift certificate to Longhorn Steakhouse. Longhorn Steakhouse is not they're not an advertiser on the show. This is a place that Leslie and I and Caitlin like to go eat. And they have you can get a pretty decent meal. Now, when you go eat their steak and their sweet potato, you got to understand, look, don't put sugar butter on there. Don't put sugar and cinnamon on that sweet potato. That's not what you're looking for. You're just looking for the butter, but you're not looking for the sugar part of it, right? And you're also understanding that that's most likely, I don't know where they get their steaks, but they're probably not a grass-fed steak. And And that's not really what you're looking for on a grass-fed steak. But you got to take a couple extra fish oil. You got to take a few extra fish oil for every night after you go eat that steak. And then you can have yourself a salad, and it's a pretty good meal. So it'll be on us if you can figure out how many Red Hots are in this bottle. And if you're listening to us on the radio, get yourself a 20-ounce bottle out of the trash somewhere, right? You wouldn't want to purchase a 20-ounce bottle of anything unless it was water. And then you could just kind of eyeball it. Think to yourself, man, about how many pills could I get in that thing? And then take a guess. Send us a message on Facebook or YouTube or Twitter, X, and then, or send us a text with your guess on there. And we've got some good ones. So you're going to have to be close in order to win. So let's get into it tonight. I hope Friday's show wasn't too, I hope it didn't come out bossy. I sure don't mean that in any form or fashion. You know, I hope that the people watching the show, and in case you don't know about me, if you don't know my background and you haven't listened to the show and you haven't kept up with us so far, the one thing that I want you to know is I've been a team player since I was a little kid. I was born into athletics. I went to my first football game, I think, when I was a couple of weeks old, and I spent my entire life from birth to 29 years old involved in some sort of team sports. The only time I ever did anything individual was when I was in fourth grade. We lived in Oklahoma, and people in Oklahoma love to wrestle, and they start the kids early. And so we started inter elementary school sports when I was in fourth grade. Is the fourth grade in elementary school in Oklahoma, and that's when I started. We played. Our elementary school would play games against other elementary schools in football, basketball, and wrestling. We also did wrestling. So when I was in fourth grade, I was a wrestler. I think at 72 pounds in the fourth grade, which is kind of crazy, really. It might have been the only time ever that I remember having to eat something to try to keep my weight down, right? But that's the only time I was ever in a sport that I remember that wasn't a team sport. And Coach Dykes used to always say when we were at Tech, he's like, man, this ain't singles tennis, right? When we were playing football at Tech, it was about a team sport. And so the idea of this show is that we're on the same team. This is not a singles tennis deal, even though I'm the only one here. Every night when I talk and when you guys listen to the show, I hope you understand that I'm trying to share information with you personally. Like I'm looking at that camera, I'm talking into the radio, I'm seriously talking to you personally. And that's the person that I want to understand is like you're the person that I want to help share the information that I have, right? I don't know anything about plumbing. I don't know anything about electrical work. I don't know anything about real estate sales. I don't know anything about banking. There's a whole lot of stuff. Computer engineering. I don't know anything about that stuff. I can't help you with that. But I can help you with health. I can help you with your nervous system. I can help you with your diet. I can help you with your movement. I can share with you the information that's going to keep your inflammation down. Information for inflammation, right? One of my patients today, she said, tell me what foods are good for inflammation. And I kind of was a smart aleck to her. I said, well, what do you mean? To increase your inflammation or decrease your inflammation? And she just kind of looked at me funny, and she didn't realize I was joking with her. And she said, to decrease, you want to decrease your inflammation, right? But I was like, well, I could tell you which foods do both, right? I could tell you which foods cause your joints to deteriorate. That's the things that we're trying to share. And I'm trying to share it with you as a teammate. But sometimes in the middle of a game, like one time we were down 4 points with 11 seconds to go, and we called a play, and our wide receiver, Lloyd Hill, he had to run a little stop and go, and you're supposed to close the gap on the defensive back. You're supposed to close the cushion before you do your little hitch and go, right? Well, the defensive back was 20 yards deep. And so we called the play in the huddle as 581 sucker was the name of the play. We were sitting in wing left. So we had trips to the left. Lloyd was by himself over there to the right. And we was 581 sucker. And there was only 11 seconds to go. And Lloyd looked at me and he's like, who am I supposed to run the hitch on? And I'm like, Lloyd, there's 11 seconds to go, right? Like, we ain't got time to discuss this. I said, just run the daggum thing, right? And Lloyd was All-American. Lloyd was one of the best wide receivers that ever played at Texas Tech, right? And so he made it happen. He just figured it out on the run right there. But there's a moment of intensity in the middle of that huddle. I love Lloyd Hill to death. To this day, if he sees me, I give him a big old hug around his neck, and he would give me a big hug around my neck too. We never were. It was never an us, me against him situation. It was us together, but sometimes us together gets a little tense, right? Sometimes us together is a little bit. It's a little bit intense when we're trying to win the game, right? And it's like, look, but it doesn't mean we're not on the same team. Well, Lloyd ran the hitch. We completed the pass, and we won the game. Yeah, you can go back and look at it. It's us against TCU in 1992. I know I sound like Uncle Rico whenever I bring that stuff up, but that was a moment in the heat of battle when sometimes it gets a little intense. And last week on Friday Night Show, we were talking about cinnamon rolls for breakfast, right? What were you going to eat for breakfast? And after the show was over, I thought, that might have been a little intense right there. And I just hope if you heard it and you went back and listened to it, that you realized it was intense because I love you. And I'm trying to get your attention, and I'm trying to get you not to die from cirrhosis of the liver because you eat a donut every day, right? I'm trying to get you not to die because that's happened to one of my family members. I'm trying not to let you deteriorate into nothing and have the misery of hell on earth because you're deteriorated into nothing. I'm trying for that not to happen to you. And so the things that I'm sharing with you, I just hope that I want it to be encouraging. I want it to be supporting, and I want it to be pivotal. I don't want it to be a jacuzzi moment. I don't want you to listen to the show and have this little, like back rub massage moment that all feels all good and everything, but it doesn't really change your life, right? I'd rather you listen to the show, get mad at me, tell me I'm full of crap, get on down the road, say, hey, listen, Doc, you don't know what you're talking about, or what do you mean by that, or whatever, and have an actual pivotal moment in your life where you actually change. If you're on the wrong track, where you actually change direction and move in the right direction, right? And that's what we're trying to accomplish. So if you ever listen to it and you hear it come off in any other way than that we're on the same team, please forgive me, and then try to listen to it in the way that I'm really trying to talk to you about it, because I don't mean it that way. I don't want it to be that way. I'm an intense guy. I'm a serious guy. This is serious. One of my patients told me last week that her goal is to make me laugh, and I'm like, I laugh a lot. I think I laugh, but I'm very serious about your health. It's not a joke to me. Your health is not a joke to me. I'm not going to give in to it. I'm not going to give up on it. I'm never going to stop working. I'm going to be there for you forever, and I'm just going to keep coming to you and keep coming to you, keep coming to you. And I hope that as we come to you over and over and over again, that it fits. It fits. Something that we say fits to you. And so I wanted to cover that. I just wanted to make sure that we weren't that wasn't taken in the wrong way on Friday's show. And then this weekend was so awesome because at church on Sunday, the pastor, he's a good dude. He's like, they're going to start a new series next week at the church we're going to. They're going to start a new series, and it's going to be about temptation or something. And they do a really good job. They'll have several Sundays in a row where they're talking about a certain topic or whatever, and they do a good job covering it. They got all their PowerPoints and all their stuff. They do a good job with that. But he said, all right, this particular sermon is a standalone sermon. He's like, we're just going to talk. This is a one and done sermon, and so I want you to just get ready for this. And he said, we're going to talk about your why. And Leslie just turned her head and she looked at me and she was like, oh, wow, here we go. This is going to be interesting right here. What does Jesus say about your why? Right. And so it was an interesting, it was pretty good stuff. Like I learned some stuff from it. And basically he was preaching out of Matthew chapter 9, verse 9. And it was a very interesting, it was very educational. It was a good sermon. It was really, it was fair, but, and not but, because I know how that goes. Everything after the but's what you really mean. I want to just take part of the sermon, and I want to take part of what I heard on Sunday, and I want to present for consideration anybody that might have heard this sermon before and studied this particular text before, because I think there's an evolution that we're missing, and I keep talking about it on the show. And I don't know. I'm not getting necessarily any positive or negative feedback about it. So I'm just going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with it for a while. This idea of mental evolution. And when I say evolution, I'm not saying that there's a big old bunch of gas that turned into a big bang and then boom, there we were, right? That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the idea that we need to be moving forward as a group. As a group, we really I'm going to present for consideration that we need to be moving forward with our thought process, because there are some things that haven't necessarily been clear to us, and we are learning a deeper understanding of the things as we go. I don't think we should be thinking the way that our great grandparents thought about some things. And I'll tell you, food is one of them, right? Exercise is another one. If you go back and think about, I'll be 53 this week. I'm having a birthday. And if you go back and think about my great grandparents, which I didn't know them, I remember them when I was very little. They just were old folks back when I was a little kid, right? But if you think about, did they have a gym membership like in 1972 when my great grandparents were 80 years old? Like, did they have a gym membership? So if they were 80 years old in 72, they would have been born in 1890, right? See, I laugh sometimes. I laugh when I think about that. God dang, like my great grandparents could have been born in the 1890s, right? So when they were 20 years old, it was 1910. You think they had a gym membership in 1910? Probably not. You know why? Because they were working their butts off just to survive every day. Think about it in the United States of America in 1910, right? Think about what was going on in the world in the early 1900s. Think about riding your horse to school, or the chores that you had to do as a little one. And most of those families, especially out here in the West, had 8, 9, 10, 13 kids in a family, right? I guess they didn't understand birth control, or they had to have lots of family members so that they could have lots of farming help, or they could have lots of ranching help, or whatever, right? So in that time frame, they wouldn't have thought about the idea. They would have known all the things that we know today about movement, because they were moving all the time, right? They worked until they died, basically, right? And if you talk to them about food, like they weren't eating food for health. They were eating food to survive. And that to me is changed. It has changed in America today. And I know there are places in every town, in every community, there are some people who are poor, and you may be one of them, and you may be eating to survive. And if you're eating to survive, you're going to have a hard time talking to someone about grass-fed beef and what kind of fish oil you should take, right? Because you're just trying to make it to the end of the week. And that's maybe you can take some of this information that we have in the on the show and listen to parts of it and say, okay, well, how can I apply what he's talking about to my situation, right? But for a lot of us, it's not that way at all. We're not in that phase anymore. We're not in that phase. And I think we're in a time in history where it would be a good idea to move along in our thinking. Another example is functional MRIs, right? A functional MRI gives us information about what's happening inside um, our brain. So there are things that we didn't know, and now there are things that we do know, and we should evolve with the things that we know. I've got two sets right here. I got two sets of omega 6-3 ratio tests on my desk. They're retests from patients that we just tested about 6 weeks ago, right? And they didn't know what the 6-3 ratio was when they wrote Matthew chapter 9, right? They didn't understand that. That wasn't a thing. It doesn't mean that what we're going to read in this chapter is wrong. I'm not critiquing Jesus, right? That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying is what he said to us at the time that he said it, and the people that understood it, it still applies to this day, but it has a deeper meaning than what they understood at the time. Or it has there's more meaning to it. I don't know how to say it properly. There's more knowledge about some of these things that make it clear what he was trying to say. I understand Jesus understood the 6-3 ratio. I understand that he understood the health, but we should understand it better. We can be better at our understanding of it. So I want to talk about it. And if you've and I'm not preaching a sermon tonight, I'm talking about a book and some teaching in the book from a teacher that was dang smart, right? That I've pretty much followed since I was born on this earth. And I'm not afraid to say that to anybody out there. So, this book to me has just as much meaning as The Master and His Emissary, or The Body Keeps the Score, or The End of Alzheimer's. This book teaches me a lot. And so in Matthew chapter 9, verse 9, and it actually it talks about while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house. So Jesus had come upon Matthew, and Matthew was a tax collector. And if you understood anything about the old days and the tax collectors, they were not popular people amongst the group, right? They were not considered friends of the group, and they weren't allowed to go into the synagogues, and they weren't allowed to hang out with people. And so Jesus was walking by Matthew, who was a tax collector, and he said, "Hey, come follow me." And Matthew got up and followed him. And so Jesus went over. So while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. When the Pharisees saw this, they asked his disciples, "Why does your teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners?" Right? Why does your teacher spend his time with those people? How come he just doesn't spend his time with the healthy people, the ones that already have it all figured out, right? And so on hearing this is verse 12. On hearing this, Jesus said, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." And in this little Bible app that I've got, it sends you to Hosea 6:6. I'll see if I can find that right quick. And that particular, it starts at 4. Um, what can I do with you, Ephraim? What can I do with you, Judah? Your love is like the morning mist, like the early dew that disappears. Therefore, I cut you in pieces with my prophets. I kill you with the words of my mouth. Then my judgments go forth like the sun. For I desire mercy, not sacrifice, and acknowledgement of God rather than burnt offerings. I acknowledge, I'm looking for the acknowledgement of the Savior, is what Jesus was saying to those people, not your church just going to church. That's not what the whole thing was about. I'm looking for what's in your heart and your acknowledgement that I am who I said I am. And so he was trying to teach, right? And he was trying to teach us about, and it goes on. The whole sermon was, what is your why? Your why is to shine your light bright into the world, right? And so I thought about that, and I really thought that it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. That's what when we get back from the break, because we're fixing to have the break on the radio. When we get back from the break, that's what I want to get into. And I want to talk about that because one of the things that the pastor said, I'd like to shine some light on that so we can have a little bit better understanding about what that means so that that doesn't create confusion for us. So you guys hang on. We'll be right back with Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. Yes, and if you're following us on Facebook, don't forget about the contest. If you didn't hear this earlier, you can try to guess and see how many Red Hots are in a 20-ounce bottle, and you'll win a prize for guessing that right there. Because a lot of us will say to ourselves, "Well, it's just one Coke. It's just one Coke a day. That's all it takes." And about that in our staff meeting this morning. For some people, like for Leslie, my wife Leslie is super disciplined when it comes to food like that. It's like she doesn't need a lot to eat. And if she wasn't hanging out with me, like if we had a box of cereal in our house or a bag of cookies or something like that, they would last till they ruined. Like she's had over the years, she's had lots of different she's had lots of different boxes of cereal that actually ruined. And I don't think I've ever had a box of cereal that's ruined. And back when I used to eat cereal, if I ate it, I ate the whole box. Like it was so like there wasn't any question about it, right? And it probably need 2 boxes or a bag of cookies. There's never been a bag of cookies that stayed around if I was in charge. So what we talked about this morning on the show was, I mean, not on the show, in our staff meeting was when a person like myself, when someone tells me a cheat day, you should just have a cheat day. Don't worry about it. Just one day ain't gonna hurt you. Just eat whatever you want for one day of the week, and then the other days eat well. I think that's hogwash. That does not work for me at all. I'm not a cheat day kinda guy because one bite leads to a bag. One bag leads to Monday. We'll do it next Monday, right? And that's what it ends up being in my life. So just just food for thought right there. Okay, everybody, we're back. This is Life with Jason Clemmons, DC. It's Monday, October 23rd, and you're listening to us on 98.7 FM Walk by Faith Radio, and everybody else is listening to us on Facebook, YouTube, or X, or they're listening to us later on Facebook, YouTube, or X. So, um, we are talking about Matthew 9:9, and it is where it started, the calling of Matthew. And when we got down to verse 12, it says, on hearing this, Jesus said, it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. And I want to talk about what that means in today's world. Jesus is 100% right. I'm not saying Jesus was wrong. I'm not saying, well, it was old and he missed it, right? By no means am I saying that. That is not by any means what I'm saying. What I'm saying is, what do we know about what that means today? What is the definition of health today? Right? Because what the pastor said he's like, if I get up and I'm feeling good today, Why would I call the doctor? Well, that's a legitimate statement. If your definition is that health is the absence of symptoms, but let's break that down. Because how long does it take cancer to grow in your body before you know you have cancer? Like, how long does it take a tumor? I've heard 7 years. I've heard seven. It takes 7 years for a breast tumor to grow large enough to be palpated on a self exam, right? So, how long does it take before liver disease breaks you down to where you have a symptom? Do you have a perfectly healthy tooth on Monday and wake up on Tuesday morning with a cavity? Right? Do you know? Do you know when you're sick? And it was Jesus talking about it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. Was he talking about a savior? Was he talking about that in the form of a savior, or was he literally using the analogy of a doctor and the sick and trying to make us understand that? Because, and I'm not trying to defend my point. I'm really not. I'm not trying to say, well, you're a wellness chiropractor. Of course you would say something like that. Of course you try to defend that for your own benefit. But I'm not trying to do that for my own benefit, because what the sermon went on to say, and what the pastor went on to say, was that we are the light of the world and we are the salt of the earth. And he said salt is a preservative, right? We are the preservative of the world. We are the preservative of the Christian faith. We are the preservative of humanity. We are the ones that move it forward, right? We're the ones that are the ones. We are the salt. If a man loses his saltiness, he's worth nothing, right? If you lose that thing inside yourself, and the sermon on Sunday was about, hey, look, shine your light into the world and bring people to Jesus. That was his why. That was his why, right? And I'm like, that's what the pastor said. He wakes up every morning. He's known it since he was a junior in high school. That's what he's been working on. And he's been trying to do that to bring people to Jesus. Well, that's fantastic for him, right? My way of bringing people to Jesus is through their health. My way is because that's the foundation of this whole thing, that you can be everything that you're supposed to be, but you might not understand. You might not understand exactly that you're sick. And when he says we are the light of the world, remember the lux. Lux is light in Latin. Subluxation. Let's take it back. Let's take subluxation back. In the world today, in the state of Texas, we have a definition. I could look it up. I don't even know what it is, but I mean, I've read it 1,000 times, but I could go to the Texas Board of Chiropractic Examiners and I can look up what the definition of subluxation is. And it'll say something about vertebral subluxation and the bones and the interference, the pressure on the nervous system causing disruption in the nervous system, right? That's what we're talking about. In the physical realm, that's exactly what we're talking about. We're talking about the disruption of the nerve pattern that causes us to be less than light, subluxated. We're less than light, right? We're walking around less than light. And a lot of us don't care. And a lot of us don't know. And a lot of us are one of my notes for tonight was, if young people knew what old people knew, they might do things different. Right? If 20-year-olds and 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds knew what 70 and 80-year-olds knew about health, would they do things different? If you are a 70 or an 80-year-old and you would have known now, if you would have known back then what you know now about your health, would you have done things differently? And you know how many times I get 70 and 80-year-olds and they tell me, yes, man, if I'd have known I was going to live this long, I would have taken better care of myself. Right? And so many times we don't even think about that. Man, it's like, if I would have known, if I'd have known, yeah, amen. That's what I say, JT. Yeah, if I would have known back then what I know now about my health, would I have made some better decisions? And if I had made some better decisions, what could I have accomplished in the time that I've had here on earth more than I've accomplished now? And what impact could I have made for all of us? Could I have made our team better? Our team of humanity. Could I have made it better if I would have been better over the last 30, 40 years, 50 years of my life, right? I think that's a legitimate question to ask, but you can't do anything about it if you've already run the race. So the ones of us that are still running the race, it's like, man, what can I do about it today? What can I do about it to actually what can I do about it to actually make myself better so that I can run the race? And then what difference does it make? Well, I'm telling you, it makes a difference. It really does make a difference, and it wraps back to all the things that we talk about on the show. It wraps back to, well, how does it matter to your spouse? I mean, just think about it. If you're a married person, how does your health affect your spouse? And if you're a married man, that's what I got convicted of in the last 2 years. Dude, what a worthless punk I've been. When I stopped eating sugar and my wife loses 45 pounds, like, seriously, I did that to her. Like, she's like my soulmate. Like, she's like intertwined in my being, right? I fell in love with that girl when I was 15 years old. It's like, it's like that. She's the only girl I've ever said I love you to in my whole life, I think, other than my mom or my sister or my daughter or something like that. Like, like, what as a man of my house, as a leader in my community, as just my own self. Think about that. What I've done, man, it's disgusting to myself. It's disgusting what I've done to myself up until about 19 months ago with my diet and my nutrition. I can't believe it. I don't have any excuses. I've said it. I say it every time. I like the same thing over and over on the show, right? It's like you guys have heard it so many times. It's like he's saying the same thing every single time, but it's the same. It really is the truth, right? It's like what could I be doing better for my children? How could I help my children live a better life? Right? What are some of the things that I could do to help my children live a better life as the man of my house? As the leader in my community, what could I do to help your children live a better life? Like, and is anybody willing to stand up and say, come on, guys, run the play. Let's run the play. Let's win the game. We're not even thinking about winning the game anymore. The majority of us are walking through our day and we're not even really thinking about playing to win. It's not even in our consciousness anymore. We're just being blown here and there by every wind of change and cunning and craftiness of men, right? That's all our Ephesians 4 deal right there. It's like, man, whatever Whataburger says, that's what I'm going to have right there. Whatever's on the menu, right? Let's run a commercial for the green chili double. It doesn't make any difference if that's not good for me. It doesn't make any difference if it's going to spike my insulin. It doesn't make any difference if it's going to create all kinds of internal havoc for me and arthritis and all the rest of that stuff that goes along with it, right? I'm going to have the French fries with the ketchup on top of them and a Coke to go with it, right? That's what I'm going to have for lunch. Why am I going to have it? I don't really have any idea because I love it. It's delicious. And it is. It's absolutely delicious. And I've had plenty of them in my lifetime, right? And so it's like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do with nutrition? What am I going to do with exercise? Am I going to work out at all? One of the things that hit me is, how come it's somebody else that can be fit? How come somebody else can look good in their clothes? How come I can see those guys all those Matthew McConaughey's of the world, right? You know, uh, all those dudes that with their abs and their Patrick Swayze's of the world and all that, and they put on a pair of jeans and a shirt, and it looks good, but it's just for them, right? It's not for me. I'm a chubby guy. Like I'm just, I've just always been a little thick. I was husky when I was little, right? I'm not one of those guys. I'm not one of those guys that actually is healthy. I'm not one of those guys that actually looks good in my clothes. I'm not one of those guys that actually like goes to the gym and works out, right? Look, if you're if you're not moving like our great grandparents were moving from birth, right? If you have a desk job and you're not moving properly, you need to go to the gym. You need to get out and walk. You need to increase your muscle mass. You're not moving a bunch of stuff all day long. You're not lifting. Some of you guys are. Some of you guys out there are lifting and moving every day, right? Some of you guys are out there have very physical jobs. Okay, the gym might not be something that you need. You might have plenty of muscle tone on your body. You might be hard as a rock. If you're hard as a rock, what do you need to do? You just need to walk. You need to walk to drive your brain and get your brain to function the way it's supposed to. That's all that you need to do, right? But if you're working in an office and you're sitting behind a desk all day long and you don't ever push anything and your hands are pristine, right? If I work in the yard for one day, my hands are full of blisters because I got no calluses on my hands anymore. Because all I do is adjust patience every day, all day long, is adjust patience. So my hands are soft. My hands, when I was a kid and we worked on the ranch, my hands weren't soft. My hands were hard when I was out there working manual labor and physical labor, but now my hands are softer, right? The only thing I get, if I only get calluses on my hands, is from when I get in the gym over there and get a hold of those dumbbells and I lift some weights. That's where I get the calluses on my hands now, but it's not from my work, right? So the evolution of thought needs to be, hey, how does it fit for me? Only it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. What is that definition of health? Right? What is my body mass composition? What is my body composition? What is my fat levels? What is my muscle level? Do I know those things? Do I know my omega 6-3 ratio? Right? What what difference does that make? Well, it makes a lot of difference when it comes to inflammation, right? What am I? Can I move my joints through a range of motion that is healthy for me to move? Right? There's a lot of factors that, like, what is your A1C? What's your blood pressure? What's your heart rate? What's your resting heart rate? What is the difference between your heart rate when you're sitting down and standing up? You should check that. You guys got a pulse ox at home? For you guys that have a pulse ox, a little, you know what that means. Put it on your finger. You can check your oxygen and your heart rate, right? With your pulse ox. One thing that you could do is you could put that pulse ox, sit down, calm yourself down, be nice and calm, and just sit down and put your pulse ox on your finger and see where your oxygen is and see where your heart rate is. And when you check your oxygen, if it's any time in the middle of the day or the evening, if you check it right now, if your oxygen is in the low 90s right now, you've got a problem. Because what's happening to you, our oxygen gets in its lowest levels, in case you hadn't heard this before, our oxygen it drops between 4 and 7 a.m. So whatever it is right now, you can expect it to be lower between 4 and 7 a.m. And anytime a patient comes into the office and their oxygen is low, it's in the low 90s, what it tells me is that between 4 and 7 a.m., it's going to drop into the high 80s and maybe even to the mid 80s. And they're going to wake up because their brain's going to need oxygen. Strokes happen mostly between 4 and 7 a.m. So you got a higher prevalence of stroke between 4 and 7 a.m. And part of that is because our oxygen levels drop between 4 and 7 a.m. So that's just a little piece of information for you, just in case you don't know that. So, but if you check your heart rate right now and you stand up, your heart rate should go up. You should be like 6 to 10 beats per minute increased a few seconds after you stand up. So when you stand up, if you've got somebody that can look at that for you, or you can look at it yourself and just kind of see what's your heart rate doing. Well, what if your heart rate doesn't bounce at all? What if it doesn't move? Okay, you stand up, you're sitting down, and your heart rate's at 78 beats per minute, and you stand up, and your heart rate's still at 78 beats per minute. Is that healthy? No, that's not healthy. Now you might be on some sort of medication that's messing up your heart, your autonomic nervous system response, right? But that's not healthy. Now, they didn't have a pulse ox when they wrote Matthew 12. Jesus had it. Jesus knew your oxygen level. Yes, I'm not saying Jesus didn't know your oxygen level. I'm saying that his definition of health, what might not have been understood, and it's still not understood today. How about this? Check your pulse and then stand up and see what happens and see if it goes up 20 points. If it goes up 20 points when you stand up, that's not healthy either. They'll call that POTS, right? They'll tell you, oh, now, yeah, there's a, you know why they call it POTS, right? They call it POTS because they have a drug for that. If they can give you a syndrome, right? GERD, right? Attention deficit disorder, right? If you can put disorder, syndrome, disease, acid reflux disease, whatever on there, right? Degenerative disc disease, all those things. If you can give it a diagnosis, then you can give it a drug. That's why they have them on there. When you're studying health, you don't care anything about that, right? It doesn't have anything to do with the diagnosis. It has to do with the physiology. What's going on in your body? What's actually happening inside your body that's causing that's an indication that your body's not working. So when you stand up, if you don't get any response from your heart rate, that's not a healthy response. If your oxygen's too low, that's not a healthy response. If you get too much response from your heart rate, that's not a healthy response. It should rise 4, 6, 10 beats per minute, and then it should go right back down to where it was before and settle on in. That's the healthy response. So when Jesus says it is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick, I believe that to be true. But I want to present for consideration the definition of healthy, right? What does that actually mean? What does it mean if your heart rate's if it's not responding properly? It means your sympathetic nervous system or your autonomic nervous system may be dysregulated. And what's that going to mean? That's going to mean your response to your environment is out of whack. It's your ability to adapt to your environment has been decreased in some form or fashion. Either you're hypoactive, or you're hypoactive, meaning you're not enough active, or you're hyperactive, which means that's not the way you should respond either, right? And that's what will go back, as we've talked about since the very beginning of the show. That's what we get in. That's what traces back, right? It traces right back to right brain, left brain. Here we go again. There he goes again. He's pulled out the Bible. He's talking about Matthew 12, and he goes right brain, left brain on us right there. Yep, because it could mean there could be indicators that our nervous system is not functioning properly, right? And do you even care? What is your why? That's what the pastor was talking about on Sunday. What is your why? If you do not define your why, and you really don't understand what you're trying to accomplish, you won't accomplish it. And you won't care whether or not we just, whatever. What's for supper? I don't care. Whatever. I don't care. When are you going to work out next? I don't have any idea. I'm busy. I'm too busy. Right? I don't have time to get any exercise. Yeah, I ain't had time to do that. I haven't had time to take care of my family. I haven't had time to take care of my wife. I don't care if she eats a bowl of cereal tonight or not. Right? Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And then what will matter? The score of the game. What will matter? Like what whether or not we won some gambling thing, or whether or not we got to spend time on our phone and look at our phone for hours and all the things that we do, right? Those are the things that start eating up our life, and then it's like time goes by. And then time goes by and it's like, man, what are we doing? Are we shining our light bright into the world? Are we hiding it under a bowl? Like a light on a hill. A light on a hill shines bright, right? That's what we are. We are the light on the hill. And if we're subluxated, we're in a state less than light. So what can we do to help ourselves be healthier? What are the things that we can do? That's what we talk about every week, every night, 5 nights a week on the show, right? Go back into the fundamentals. That's what we talked about last week. Go back to the fundamentals. Can you do it? Yes, absolutely. Can you do it at 25? Yes. Can you do it at 35? Yes. Can you do it at 45? Yes. Do I need to keep going? Yes. 55, 65, 75, 85, 95. Can you do it at 95? Yes. One of my guys this morning working out, 80 years old. Is he moving like a 20-year-old? Absolutely not. Is he moving better than he would be moving if he wasn't working out? Absolutely. Right? Does he have a chance to be healthier at 81 than he is at 80? Absolutely. Does he have something to do when he's not here? Yes, the man's busy. He's doing lots of stuff. He's involved in groups. He's out there meeting with people. He has people at his house. They're very, very, very social people, right? And they're very social people. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to help their physical, chemical, and mental emotional stress. Does he need to be eating sugar? No. Why? Because it is a detriment to our brain. It's a detriment to our joints. It's a detriment to our why. It's a detriment to our shining our light into this world. It subluxates us. It gives us bad physiology. It gives us bad brain function. It gives us bad joint function. It gives us bad stomach function. It feeds the bad bacteria in our gut. The refined carbohydrates feed that, right? Which disrupts our why. When you really start, every person I know, when they decide they're going to do something, they do it. When you just decide that you're going to do it, no one can stop you. If you decide you're going to mow your grass on Saturday, you're going to go mow your grass. I'm mowing the grass. It's going to rain. I don't care. I'm mowing the grass anyway. I've decided I'm mowing the grass. Don't tell me I'm not going to mow the grass. Don't tell me I got to go to Hobby Lobby. I'm not doing it. I'm mowing the grass, right? If Leslie decides she's going to Hobby Lobby, you might as well get in a truck. She's going to Hobby Lobby. If she decides we need something hung on the walls in our house, it's happening. You can just book it. After 36 years, I don't even discuss it. Like I know it from the jump. When she decides what she's going to do, it's happening, right? As soon as we decide, yeah, I'm with you, JT. As soon as we decide, I'm getting some text in there, some smiley faces and some laughing faces and thumbs up. Yeah. As soon as we decide that's what we're up to, there's nothing stopping us. We can just make it happen. And as soon as we decide we want to be healthy because we understand that our health supports our why, our light that we shine into the world, we got a chance to win the game. Like we really do have a chance to win the game. We got a chance, and we might make some mistakes along the way, but man, we really do. We have a chance to win the game if we'll just get after it right there. So, um, I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I hope you guys are enjoying the show. And if you have any questions, you want to keep up with the texts coming to us. I really appreciate those texts. They're a lot of fun. If you got questions on Facebook, MJ says, it's like reading the Bible. It's the same thing over and over, but sometimes you catch something you didn't catch before. But don't worry about repeating yourself, Doc. Yeah, thanks, MJ. I appreciate you, man. You talk about a dude on fire that shines his light into this world. Him and his wife. MJ Lewis from Roswell, New Mexico. Now, you talk about some people on fire. They're inspiring to me every single day. So, thanks, MJ, for the message. I'll see you guys tomorrow night.